stepped in the game? At point blank range, who done stepped in the game? At point blank range, who done stepped in the game? Stepped in the game, stepped in the game.
So I'm running into a lot of issues and a lot of comments from a majority of places, be it Twitter, Google Plus, YouTube, Facebook, or what have you. And all of them tend to be talking about the same thing. And that same thing is that the Wii U CPU and GPU are vastly weaker than the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 CPU. And in some cases, weaker. Well, in some cases, some people are saying that it's weaker or far weaker than the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Things such as it can't run last-gen games or something to that effect. And it kind of got me to thinking, and I'm wondering exactly why people are saying this. What it seems like is popular opinion now is fact. Nobody, to my knowledge, has confirmed what is powerful and what isn't powerful, and where actually the Wii U stands with any of these systems. But Shadow Fox, there's website here and website here, and this developer here said that. Okay. Website here and website there is quoting sources from basically a NeoGAF thread if you're talking about the specifications. IGN's spec list. GameSpot's spec list. Kotaku's spec list. Eurogamer's spec list. Digital Foundry's spec list. All come from an article by Eurogamer, Digital Foundry, and Chipworks, and NeoGAF. Yes, NeoGAF. The forum. So a forum thread was dedicated to both the Wii U CPU and GPU. And the long bit of the story is this. They couldn't figure out what the hell was going on in the CPU. It looks nothing like anything in previously. The GPU looks like nothing that's been developed on anything on the AMD side. So they asked for help. So Chipworks kindly decided to dole out die shots of both the CPU and the GPU in extremely large size, like real scans, instead of just a scan of a substrate that's been cleaned off, which does nothing for you. So the Wii U chips themselves are unmarked with no numbers on them whatsoever, and the only thing that has any markings on it is the heat spreader that goes over both the GPU and the CPU with the markings Resni's 2012 IBM Nintendo. That is it. That is all. Nothing else extra, nothing else less. So the problem herein is that even with a scan, an increased scan of a die shot, you can't tell what the clock rate of a CPU is. You can't tell what the clock rate of a GPU is. You almost can't tell how much L1 and L2 cache there is because you don't know how many blocks there are, how big the blocks are, how big the L1 cache is, how big the L2 cache is, particularly with Wii U, because L2 and L3 in certain parts of Wii U is eDRAM, so it's a lot bigger, but with a lot lower latency, so it's really close to what an L2 cache would be. And you don't know where that is on the system. It could be elsewhere on the MCM. It could be built within the CPU itself. It could be inside of the GPU. And you really don't know what you're looking at unless somebody tells you. And there's no other way to really denote that, even though a lot of quote-unquote hardware junkies out there will sit there and say, well, this is this and this is this. I'm like, unless you've worked in a fabrication plant, unless you worked in a fucking fab, you have no idea what any of this stuff looks like when you see it. You have no idea what SRAM blocks look like on the Wii U GPU, and you damn sure don't know what any of them look like on the CPU. So you have no idea what SIMD instructions are available or not available, in what size, and what and what nanometer process they were made. So even though the GPU itself was made at 40 or 45 nanometers, so goes the rumor, that doesn't mean that everything on the inside could be processed at an even smaller process to reduce heat. Because remember, that was in general what Nintendo's original goal was, to have, you know, basically a system that could run at no more than 25 watts at a time, still doing things that the Xbox 360 couldn't do at 70 watts. So, do we know what's in the Wii U CPU? Do we know what's in the Wii U GPU? If you actually follow the rabbit hole all the way down to what happened in NeoGAF and a lot of the guesses that were given to them and a lot of the information that was given to them from Marcan, they still don't know. Marcan gave up on hacking the Wii U about a year ago. They couldn't get code to execute. Well, they got code to quote-unquote execute, but it crashed the system. To me, that's not execute. So they saw no further need to go about finding out what exactly makes the Wii U tick. Nintendo basically made it hard as fuck for anybody to find out what's going on in that system, except for developers. And developers, of course, mum's the word. So why would any developer, quote unquote, go on record and say negative things about the platform if they're shrouded in NDA? So that's the other issue that I have is, oh, well, ShadowCasts, the developers say the system is shit. There is no one developer that has ever come out to say anything negative about Wii U. There have been two developers in particular that came out to say a lot of positive things about Wii U, and people tend to forget those ever happened. Shinin, for example, has gone on to say on record that Wii U's GPU is generations beyond anything the 360 and the PS3 were ever capable of. They've also gone on to say that you have to manage the eDRAM and the caches of the Wii U CPU cores to effectively gain the power that you need for it. Otherwise, you're going to be limited. Because, of course, if you try to go programming on the Xbox 360 for one fucking core, you're not going to get good performance. The same thing happens with Wii U. You can't just force old-ass code on it and expect to get good results. You have to start from scratch. You got to write to the metal. You have to make shit work. That's the way the system was designed. Now, my last point is that, okay, so for the developers that have said negative things about Wii U, they aren't developers. We'll go down the list. Bob Summerville, not a developer. He's a quote-unquote software architect or a software engineer, if you will. Has he ever made a Wii U game? No. You have people such as like Naughty Dog. And it's not even Naughty Dog themselves. It was just the head of Naughty Dog at the time. He went on a Reddit comment and said that he thinks that, to him, Wii U is more along the lines of the 360 and the PS3 when it comes to development. Does that mean that's hardware-wise? Does it mean that's technically what it's capable of? Or does that mean that they have to use development assets, i.e. programming or tool sets that are more similar to the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 versus the x86 flavored stuff that is on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4? It could mean that. We have no way of knowing. Because all these quote-unquote developers give is vague statements. Everybody else is a PR guy. Every single person that has said something not nice about the Wii U directly is not even a developer. They're PR. They know nothing about coding at all. Nor should that word be taken as if they do. Last I checked, computer science guys and programmers do not have time to go out and talk. They're too busy coding the game. Especially if they're not the lead programmer or they're not the lead producer on the project. They have no time to go talk. Programmers program. The things that they know about the system, not only can they not say because they're under NDA, they also can't say because they're too busy making a game. People need to understand this. And please, kindly, shut the fuck up. I see too many people on social media right now talking about, oh, the Wii U's last gen, oh my god, blah, 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 blah. Generation is not defined by hardware. Even if it was, Wii U is clearly beyond 7th generation hardware, be it Wii, 360, or PS3. The fact that it runs ports such as Call of Duty, Black Ops 2 with one CPU core, while the 360 churns and churns and churns with 3 CPU cores and supposedly twice the amount of threads at 3.6 gigahertz or 3.2 gigahertz, is bewildering if the Wii U is supposedly vastly lower clocked and can still do the same thing. With VSync running, by the way. So to me, that means that the more powerful hardware is Wii U doing it at a lower clock. Kind of like how the clock speeds of the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are lower on the CPU side, and nobody seemed to complain about that. But yet, when you want to compare the Wii U CPU, you want to say, oh, well, it's weaker because the clock speed's lower and its power architecture just like they are. Contrary to popular belief, power architecture also scales and also gets better instructions per clock, just like later versions of Intel chips do, just like later versions of ARM chips do, just like later versions of AMD CPUs do. So it is very possible that a newer architecture of power chips can run at 1 gigahertz and still have the performance of an older power architecture chip at 4 gigahertz. It's all about the implementation. It's all about how many instructions you can have per cycle. And it's all about how well your code is laid out and how well your code is implemented. I'm really sick of people acting really ignorant on the internet. Video games are computer programs. They only change when the developer changes how it runs. And they only change when the developer changes how it runs on certain hardware. You can't take the same code and run it everywhere. For the same reason, you can't code a mobile game the same way you can code on a PC. The same way you can't code a 360 game from 7th generation and hope that it magically works the same way on more powerful hardware, i.e. Wii U. If anyone really thinks Wii U is vastly inferior to 7th generation hardware and therefore is vastly inferior to 8th generation hardware, I want you guys to put your money where your mouth is. Show me exactly where you got your information, and it better be verified and reputable, i.e. they did an impartial benchmark, or you found white papers on the Wii U CPU or GPU. So you can actively compare, because you know the numbers are out there for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 since both of those systems touted those until later on. If you can do that, then I'm fine with that. Otherwise, please stop sounding ignorant and find something better to do on the internet. Do you play games to have fun or to impress other people? I'm out.